Hi. Today I'm in John 5, 1-15, where Jesus, at the pool of Bethesda, heals a man who had been lame for 38 years. It's a story about Jesus' authority and power, of conflict with people who didn't believe and therefore opposed him. But it's also a story about sin and resurrection. The bottom line here is that Jesus wants everybody to know who he is. But so many times when he did that, people responded with unbelief and even hostility. The pool of Bethesda, where this happened, was a place where there was a mineral springs that fed a holding pool. And people came here for medical therapy, sort of like a spa, like a hot tub, like a healing shrine, but also for ritual cleansing. So saying, there were always a lot of disabled people, sick people, and religious people at this site. It's the perfect setting for Jesus to teach an important lesson about what really debilitates people. When Jesus approaches the pool, despite the crowd that's there, Jesus picks out one, just one from among all of them, to be his living example of true healing. This is one specific person, a man who had been lame for 38 years. And that man and what Jesus is going to heal in him becomes an object lesson, a parable in life for the bigger picture of Jesus versus everything false and of belief versus unbelief. We can tell that this story is really about something much deeper than just healing a lame person. There are lots of clues, but one clue is that all of the people there need healing. That's why they're there. But Jesus heals only one. His purpose is to draw attention to something far more significant than healing lame legs. Now, another piece of the pie here is there is symbolism in where this healing takes place. The story takes place in Jerusalem, and the temple in particular. These places represent the center of Judaism, as well as the hub of the effort to reject Jesus. Jesus often faces trouble when he's in Jerusalem, and this time is no different. His going there is like a mouse going into a snake pit, but it's intentional. Jesus has something to teach. Throughout the story, there are lots of references to the Jewish religious system. There's Jerusalem, the temple itself. It's during a festival, a feast. He's talking about the sheep gate, so we think the sacrificial system. And it's a ritual bathing pool. Interesting, right? These are more clues that the point of all this is definitely more than just a healing. Now, if we want to talk about the pool of Bethesda in particular, people came here and waited here for supernatural miracles. Everything about the story is pointing us towards some expectation where we will see a supernatural manifestation, but not only one that heals, but also one that will confront something about the Jewish religious system, its proponents, and its leaders. On one layer, it's a healing story of Jesus' power and authority. On another layer, there's a deeper category, Jesus' power and authority for those who are spiritually disabled. We will later in the story be told that the disabled man represents not only physical infirmities, but also the spiritual infirmity of sin. These people are those who are helpless. They're hopeless, and for all practical purposes in that world, dead. But that point is made on two layers as well. Those who are helpless, hopeless, and for all intents and purposes, dead. Now, it doesn't take long to figure out that this healing pool is really a sham, because if it really did have power, healing power, all of these people would have been back home by now. We're meant to think of this also as the a representation or a symbol of the Jewish religious system, and therefore all religious systems. They may look alive, but there's no fruit there. It's a sham. You see, this story connects with previous stories in John of Jesus changing the water to wine, of the cleansing of the temple and the cursing of the fig tree. They're all about empty religion in contrast to the truth found in Jesus. So this disabled man is a bona fide picture of frailty, hopelessness, helplessness, and human insufficiency, which is also a picture of sin. All of those things as well. Jesus' interaction with this man is to become an object lesson, a parable in life for the bigger picture of Jesus versus Judaism and belief versus unbelief, which is John's theme in the book. He came unto his own, and his own didn't receive him. But as many as will receive him, they can become whole. Now in John 15:6, we see Jesus blending the physical reality with the deeper spiritual meaning. Jesus asks the man, do you want to get well? I mean, in ways you'd go, well, duh, of course he wants to get well, but there's a deeper meaning. You see, there's always a deeper meaning in Jesus' actions, and particularly his questions, so we pay particular attention. We will learn later in the story, in verse 14, that Jesus is talking about spiritual wellness more than he is talking about physical wellness. When he asks the man this question, Jesus is basically asking, is wholeness the desire of your heart? Though it does pertain to his physical condition, which is very real, Jesus wants everyone to think about their spiritual condition. Now, another piece of this pie is we look at the symbolism of water that's in the whole book of John so far. Yes, the man is literally by the pool. There's actual water in there. But in the book of John, the Gospel of Belief, water has been symbolic of earthly things as opposed to heavenly things. Physical water is of the earth. Jesus offers something better. See, in chapter 1, it said John baptizes with water, but Jesus will baptize with the Holy Spirit. In chapter 2, Jesus turns the water to wine. In chapter 3, Jesus talks with Nicodemus about being born not just with water, but also with the Spirit. In chapter 4, when he meets with the Samaritan woman, he promises living water. And now here in chapter 5, he again supersedes the healing water with what he's really talking about. So after Jesus asks the man, is wholeness the desire of your heart? The man responds that when he tries to get in the pool, he's unable to do it. He has the desire, but not the means. And he also blames his illness on others and on his circumstances. See, we're starting to get a fuller picture about faith, belief, and salvation here. And Jesus then commands the man, get up. It's the same verb used for the resurrection. Jesus is essentially telling the man, time for resurrection. Your dead legs will live again. But Jesus is talking about more than legs. This goes along with John 1:4 that says, in him was life, and that life was the light of all humanity. Jesus has power not only over illness and nature, but also over sin and death. And the man stood up and walked. You see, Jesus spoke, and it was so. And God said, let there be life. And there was life. Now in verse 10, the narrative takes a turn. The at once of the miracle is matched by the instantaneous criticism by Jesus' detractors, represented and perpetrated by the icons of Judaism. We are suddenly yanked back to what the whole story is really about. Jesus versus the Jewish religious system. Now, it happens to be the Sabbath, and the law forbids someone to carry their mat on the Sabbath. So Jesus is locking horns with the system about the law's authority versus Christ's authority, about unbelief versus belief. See, the law and salvation by works is being challenged by Jesus' message of grace and resurrection. In verse 12, we pick up their temperament of hostility and contempt for Jesus. The Jewish leaders say to the formerly lame man, "Who is this guy who told you to pick up your mat and walk?" They're questioning Jesus' authority, his sense of judgment for asking that, and his alleged contempt for God's laws. Who is this guy who told you this? Well, Jesus is not going to engage with them. That's not why he's there. That's for another day. Verse 13 tells us he left. This is a lesson for his disciples to see, hear, and learn. In verse 14, we learn that the point all along has been sin, not healing legs. Jesus later found that guy at the temple and said to him, "Look at you. You're well again. Stop sinning, or something worse may happen to you." You see, the core of the lesson here is Jesus' concern that people stop sinning. It's a far higher priority than physical healing or even the Sabbath. Just as in the story of the lame man let down through the roof in Mark 2, 1-12, it is easier to say, "Your sins are forgiven," than to heal a lame man in front of everyone watching. But so that people understand that Jesus has the power to forgive sins, he makes the lame walk. That's what's going on here too. You see, sin is his main concern. The message is clear. We're sinners, and sin affects our lives so negatively in so many ways. Actually, in every way. This story, though, then ends on a negative note. Just so the man doesn't get in trouble for carrying his mat, and so he doesn't get stoned for flouting the Jewish Sabbath laws, he betrays Jesus, and he blames him for this transgression he's been caught in. It says, the man went away and told the Jewish leaders it was Jesus who had made him well. Well, don't blame me for carrying my mat. Jesus made me do it. Blame that guy. Indict Jesus. Whether this man is just thinking of his own selfish benefit, or whether he's trying to deflect criticism, guess what? Guess what? God still uses that man's testimony to spread the word about Jesus' power and authority, giving people a reason to believe. So what's the message here for us? When it comes to comparative religions, Jesus is the one with authority, power, and the identity as God. He's not just a prophet or a religious guru. Jesus is the one with the evidence behind him that gives a legitimate reason to believe in him. Second, people seek God for all kinds of reasons. They want to connect with a higher power. They want to experience transcendence. They feel vulnerable and they want protection, security, safety. They're looking for comfort in a troubling world. I get that. As worthy as all these things are, what people truly need is forgiveness from sin and a relationship with God. Jesus is the only one who offers all of these. Third, people easily get caught up in what they think they need to do or they have to do to find God. Let's do these rituals. Let's practice religion. Let's Let's do these good deeds. Let's do these rituals, religions, responsibilities. Jesus wants us to put all that aside and accept his free gift of grace and resurrection. And lastly, if you want life to be all that you were meant to be, Jesus is the only source, means, and goal for that to ever be real. If you really want to find life, seek Jesus.